One of the most legendary Boston Celtics scorers, he was a key piece to the 2 titles they won in the 70s. Jojo White made his mark while playing for the most storied franchise in NBA basketball history. He was an exceptional shooter. He was one of the best all-around guards of his time, and he is one of the most underrated clutch performers ever. The eye test and his resume speak to his overall greatness. He was an All-Star for 7 consecutive seasons. He was selected to the All-NBA second team twice. He won the Finals MVP in 1976, and he is a Hall of Famer. He had to wait 34 years to receive that call, but it was well deserved. He had the respect of fans and players alike. Check out what some of his contemporaries said about his game and career.
Well, he was the MVP of the series. That's where you get that Celtic pedigree to come into play, where you never give up until it's over.
Jojo's a team ball player, and this is what the Celtics are. You can see by them winning championships as a part of that.
Well, Jojo was an Iron Man for us. In all playoff games, anytime he was on the line, he was a dependable guy.
You know, I'm glad people are recognizing Jojo. He was such an integral part of really a very, very dedicated basketball team. They were all so competitive, and he was one of the top competitors.
But in order to truly appreciate his greatness, we must start from the beginning. Jojo White was drafted in 1969. This came during the same offseason that Bill Russell and Sam Jones retired. They ended their careers in the most iconic way possible, by defeating the newly formed super team in Los Angeles, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor, on their home floor. It was their 11th championship in 13 years. Now that they were gone, there were major questions about how quickly they would regain their title form. The pressure was on for Jojo to start producing immediately. Their head coach Tom Heinsohn mentioned that he was under the gun to perform and to be an all-around player from the moment he stepped into the league. He also said he had more pressure put on him than Havlicek as a rookie. This fan base was not used to losing. However, they needed to go through a rebuilding phase before placing any title expectations on this young team, but there were encouraging signs in how quickly his game was maturing. By his second season, he made his All-Star game debut. This was the stage of his career when he showcased his talent as a scorer. In 1972, he averaged his career high of 23.1 points per game on 43% shooting. His scoring prowess starts with his unique jump shot. He would hang in the air, delaying the release of the ball as he was going down. This would confuse defenders and allow him to hit contested shots. He also had a lethal hesitation dribble. When he was running in transition, he was great at directing in traffic and creating for himself. You certainly wouldn't describe him as a one-dimensional player. In fact, he was only one of 8 guards to average over 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists a game for a season at that point. By 1973, the pieces were all in place to contend for a title. Dave Cowens was in his 3rd season, and he was already the most versatile center in the league. He was even awarded the MVP that season. John Havlicek was the best all-around player in the game. They were shaping up to be one of the best trios the NBA had ever seen. They all played a big part in the success of their team, and they proved to the world just what they were capable of. They finished the year winning 68 games. They are only one of 7 teams to win that many games in a season. They were even starting to look like the Celtics teams that were dominating in the 60s. They ran the fast break extremely well and were the top defensive team. Jojo White deserves credit for that. He was asked to focus more on getting others involved and playing solid defense from this point forward. He was willing to sacrifice his numbers, and the team benefited tremendously. Unfortunately, they ended up being remembered as arguably the greatest team to never win a title. John Havlicek suffered an injury at the worst possible time. This occurred in Game 3 against the New York Knicks in the conference finals. He played Games 5 to 7 with a dislocated shoulder. It's fair to ask if they win that series with a healthy roster, but they used that fuel to come back stronger than ever in the following postseason. In the semifinals against the Buffalo Braves, he showcased another important skill that he possessed. It was Game 6, and the Braves were fighting for their playoff lives. The momentum was robbed from the Celtics' hands after Bob McAdoo forced a turnover and dunked the tying field goal. In the last possession of the game, Jojo White was fouled as time expired. He went to the free throw line for the first time all game and swished both of them. There was nobody that they wanted more to be in that position, and he was fearless in such a clutch moment. They were later able to knock the New York Knicks out in 5 games in the conference finals, and then they won the classic finals matchup against the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games. For that series, Jojo averaged 16.6 points on 46% shooting, 7 assists, and 3.9 rebounds per game. He was their most efficient scorer and leading assist man. They needed every bit of his contributions to defeat such a tough team led by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they were able to become champions. It didn't take them long to return to the biggest stage. In the 1976 postseason, he had the greatest playoff run of his career. By this time, the Celtics were going to need him to focus his attention back on scoring. John Havlicek was 35 years old and was no longer the same player. Their bench was also unreliable. It was up to Jojo White to fill some of those holes, and he delivered. He averaged 22.7 points per game on nearly 45% shooting, which was a team high. His most memorable moment came and was widely recognized as the greatest game ever played. It's Game 5 of the finals against the Phoenix Suns. With the series tied at 2, Jojo had his best performance of that postseason. He had 33 points on 52% shooting, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. With the rest of his star teammates struggling to make shots, he delivered every time they needed a basket. But nothing was bigger after John Havlicek made what seemed to be the buzzer-beating shot. After they ran off to the locker room, thinking they had won the game, there was a brawl between the fans and a referee. After correctly adding 1 second to the game clock, the Suns called a timeout they didn't have in order to advance the ball. This was a violation that gave the Celtics an extra free throw. The player they asked to step up was Jojo White, who calmly made the free throw. If it wasn't for that, the Suns would have won the game with this miraculous shot by Gar Hurd. But the Celtics were able to win in triple overtime thanks to Jojo's heroic performance. What's even more impressive is that he played a total of 60 minutes. By the end of the game, he looked visibly worn out. But this was something that he was used to doing. He played all 82 games for 5 consecutive seasons. He also averaged a combined 40 minutes per game from 1972 to 1977. He was one of the most reliable players in the league. And even with all those miles and those tired legs, he produced a very efficient game. That is certainly one of the reasons why he was awarded the Finals MVP. It's a hardware that proves how valuable he was to one of the best teams of the 70s. Then, in the 1977 playoffs, he cemented his reputation as one of the best clutch players of his time. It's Game 1 of the semifinals against the Philadelphia 76ers, and he makes his tough jumper fading away at the buzzer. This was going to be their last chance to win a title with this core, and they weren't going to go away without a fight. It took all 7 games for Dr. J and company to knock out the defending champions. That capped off an extremely dominant run. During those 6 seasons, they won 2 titles, had 2 60-win seasons, and 3 additional 50-win seasons. The Celtics continued their tradition of winning, and he was a big part of that. But after the Celtics missed the playoffs in 1978, it was time to move on and start rebuilding again. The Larry Bird era started the year after he was traded to the Golden State Warriors. He played with the franchise until 1980. He was later picked up by the Kansas City Kings, but only played 13 games. That is when he decided to retire. He accomplished so much in his 12-year career. You don't have to be a Celtics fan to recognize how great of a player he was. He played his role to perfection, but was good enough to be the best player on the floor when needed. Even with all the Celtics legends that came before and after him, he deserves to be mentioned among the all-time best. But what about you all? What do you remember the most from his career, and what was your favorite memory? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.